Welcome back to my KEEPUP channel. Left out in the cold, tears and fury in the Commons as Keir Starmer's winter fuel payment axe is passed with only one Labour vote against as dozens of MPs make their excuses and stay away amid threats of punishment. Keir Starmer's scrapping of the winter fuel payment was approved by the Commons today amid claims of tears and recriminations. Some 10 million pensioners will not get the allowance, worth up to £300 this year, after MPs signed off the controversial measure by 348 to 228. Just one Labour MP, veteran left-winger John Trickett, supported a Tory motion to block the move, and now faces having the whip suspended. But the margin had painful soul-searching, with the government's majority falling to 120 from its theoretical strength of 167. There were 53 abstentions, with MPs citing dentist appointments and personal crises to skip from the vote, and claims that one was seen in tears in the voting lobbies. Labour sources insisted that just a dozen dodged the vote without having been given approval. There had been threats of punishment, and 7 MPs were already out in the cold following a previous protest over the two-child benefit cap. The result, which drew shouts of shame in the chamber, came after a bruising debate, with warnings that panicking old people are planning to ride buses all day and go to bed at 5 p.m. to stay warm. Earlier, Pensions Minister Emma Reynolds risked stoking the row by insisting there are plenty of very wealthy pensioners who do not need the handouts. Kicking off the debate in the Commons, Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary Mel Stride said Sir Keir's promises of integrity had gone out the window and urged Labour MPs to look to your conscience. Broken promises already. That special contract that they sought to have with the British people based on integrity and decency smashed into a million pieces, he said. In a statement posted on X, Mr. Trickett said, "This winter will be extremely difficult for my constituents of all ages. After years of obscene profiteering by energy companies, they are hiking bills once again. I fear that removing the payment from pensioners will mean that many more will fall into poverty this winter. We know that the consequences of pensioner poverty are devastating. It can even be a matter of life and death. I have worked behind the scenes to try and change the government's position, but to no avail. Our country is richer than it's ever been, but the wealth is not shared fairly. In my view, the government should be looking to raise revenues from the wealthiest in society, not working-class pensioners. I could not in good conscience vote to make my constituents poorer. I will sleep well tonight know that I voted to defend my constituents." Tories lined up to condemn the decision to strip the benefit from 10 million pensioners. Former Minister Esther McVey claimed that Labour has declared war on pensioners. She told the Commons, "The public knows this decision to rob millions of pensioners of their winter fuel allowance, for which the government has no mandate, has nothing to do with economics, and everything to do with cynical political calculations, and the haste with which it is being done is breathtaking." During a Westminster Hall debate before the main business in the Commons, Labour MP Rachel Maskell said, "A constituent has had leukemia, they need to keep warm and have their heating on but cannot afford to, it costs £300 a month." A recently widowed constituent at the depth of their personal sadness now scared they will not survive the winter, they can't afford their heating. Another goes to bed at 5 o'clock to keep warm. One told me he wears jumpers, a coat and a warm hat but the air is still cold and damp. And Rose, registered as severely visually impaired who lives alone, said, "I'm a council tenant with no extra assets." She went on to tell me she was scared, abandoned was her words, the winter fuel payment was her lifeline. Ms. Maskell said the government must have the capacity to find another way, adding, "They put their hope in Labour because, like me, we believe that we exist to fight for working people, to protect the poor and seek justice, equality, and fairness." Ms. Maskell said the economic imperative of the measures has been shredded before encouraging delays to implementing the policy, saying, "My constituents plead I do something, my goodness I am trying but the minister must too. Please, let us mitigate, let's give people the confidence that we have, the comfort and care they need, help and protection to keep safe, warm and well this winter. If it can't be done, then delay these regulations." But Ms. Reynolds responded that the cut was the right decision given the tough choices that we face. "Just to be very, very clear, I have spoken to a number of MPs present about the government's decision and there actually is fairly widespread agreement that this benefit should not be universal," she said. There are plenty of very wealthy pensioners who are getting transfers of £200, or £300 if they're over 80, into their bank account and who don't need it, so it's right that we target this support on the poorest pensioners. Many rebels seem to have stepped back from the brink after Sir Keir ruthlessly suspended the whip from a group who voted to abolish the two-child benefit cap. Ministers have been pointing to an expected £460 rise in the state pension next year in a bid to defuse the row. Official figures typically used to set the increase in April showed earnings going up by 4%. Sir Keir and Chancellor Rachel Reeves have been highlighting the prospect of a hike to offset the loss of up to £300 from the winter fuel allowance. Ms. Reeves last night told panicking Labour MPs she would not back down, and suggested pensioners could afford to tighten their belts this winter. The Chancellor said she did not relish the cut, but warned there would be more difficult decisions to come in next month's budget. Ministers have refused to publish an assessment of the likely impact of the cut, which will save £1.5 billion a year. The triple lock means the state pension rises by the highest out of earnings, inflation or 2.5%. For April, the earnings figure will almost certainly be the top figure. A 4% increase would mean the full state pension for men born after 1951 and women born after 1953 hitting £11,962.50 next year. That comes after a £900 increase last year. The final decision will be made by Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall ahead of the budget next month, but Ms. Reeves has been emphasizing her commitment to the mechanism. Earlier, a cabinet minister squirmed as he refused to guarantee pensioners will not die of cold due to the winter fuel payment cut. Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds was put on the spot as he toured broadcast studios ahead of a crunch vote on the plans this afternoon. Asked on Sky News to promise that no pensioners will die of cold as a result of the government's move, Mr. Reynolds said, "No one should die of cold in this country." Pressed again for a guarantee, Mr. Reynolds said, "I can guarantee we're doing everything we can to make sure that not only the state pension is higher and everyone is better off, but that support is targeted where it needs to be." Mr. Reynolds then scrambled to clarify his position when asked the same question in a later interview, saying, "No. We are making sure that we can reassure people by saying the state pension is higher than last winter and energy bills are lower than last winter." Mr. Reynolds was also forced to deny jibes from unions that Ms. Reeves was behaving like the Grinch. He was confronted with remarks made by RMT General Secretary Mick Lynch at the TUC conference yesterday, where he said that Ms. Reeves would be likened to the Grinch. "I don't think that is fair in any way," the minister told LDC. "What we have been able to do is first of all be serious about decisions that the previous government has sat on. It's nothing like the kind of austerity that we saw under George Osborne. It is a recognition that where the previous government has made commitments that it can't honor, you've got to be responsible within there." A new assessment by the Resolution Foundation think tank yesterday warned that 1.3 million of the poorest pensioners would be driven deeper into poverty by the move. Former Labour frontbencher Richard Bergen said the plan will result in the death of pensioners who won't be able to turn the heating on. Source: dailymail.co.uk. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.